delighted and excited that you guys are listening on all podcast platforms and watching on CJC Network. We are now at 100 million people who are able to access the network through all of our platforms and cable outlets and OTAs and OTTs. So we want to say thank you guys for watching, and you guys are making this show a hit. That's why my guests keep getting better and better. Just like today, we have a special R&B gem, and she is a songwriter. She's a artist. She's also an author of two amazing books, at least I know, but she might have done more books than those. I don't know, but that's why we're going to talk to her today. Her name is Tiffany Bynoe. What's up, Tiff?
Hey, how you doing?
I am wonderful. So glad that you decided to do this podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I want to get right into it. Where did you originate from? Where are you from?
I am from Akron, Ohio.
Akron.
Yeah,
So
Akron,
tell us a
Ohio.
little bit about your background. How did you get started in music? Uh, and take us through a small journey of your life. You've even have a couple hits I saw
I do.
too, and I was like, okay, so Tiff, like she's like R&B royalty over here.
Yeah, you know what? I have been in the industry for a minute. I had a number 3 hit out back on the Billboard charts, hip hop Billboard charts, and my stage name at that time was Tanae Williams. But to bring you up before I get to that, I actually, at the age of 16, I won the Apollo Theater 3 times. And then from there, and you know what's so interesting? When I was a little girl, I said I used to speak 3 things. And one was I was going to win the Apollo Theater, I was going to do Soul Train, and I was going to win Grammys. Well, little did I know that life and death is in the power of the tongue at that time, you know? So I began to speak things and not knowing that I was on the road, you know, of those things manifesting. And I ended up winning the Apollo Theater 3 times. They offered me a deal, but I was still in high school. My mom's like, no, you're going home to finish high school, you know? And so I went home. And then 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I moved to New York.
Oh
Now,
wow.
growing up, the interesting thing with me is my dad's from New York. So it wasn't foreign to me, you know,
Right.
like every summer I was shipped off to grandma's house and, you
Right.
know, which I loved because that side of my family, very musically inclined, you know, and the interesting thing with them is they were the type that there was no competition, you know, it was like if you sung alto, if you sung soprano, if you played the bass or if you played the drums, wherever you get in at, you just get in and play, you know.
Right. Right.
So, and I grew up with that, you know, so that was like a very, very strong, you know, thing that was put in me at a young age. So I'm not really one of those that compete, you know, because I understand that I stand in my own as well as everybody else does, you know.
That's
And so
right.
I went through that, and then I got with my manager, which was Mickey Eichner. I got with Pendulum Records, and I had a number 3 hit with Give 'Em a Love by Tanae Williams. And so did all those wonderful things. And then my daughter was born. Well, my daughter was born with dextrocardia. And dextrocardia at that time, she was the 3rd child in the country to ever have it. So yeah, so it meant that, you know, mommy had to be front and center and you know what I mean? Because at that
Right.
time people they were curious about it. So they would have people come in and just want to just look at it, you know, look at her heart and things like that. And I had to be very protective of her, which meant that you know, I didn't breathe life and I knew that I had to lay my life down to make sure hers was whole, you know?
Wow.
So I found myself throughout that journey just doing um, you know, just writing and singing songs through the seasons that I was going through, you know,
Right.
and not only that, becoming a licensed minister in that as well, you know. So my daughter, she went through 2 open heart surgeries.
Oh man.
Yeah, at the age of, I believe she was 7, and then she was 11 and getting ready to turn 12. And I had been been left the industry for a while, had been into ministry, you know, for a while then. And so we had really kept her around, you know, the power of a miracle God, you know, and just the understanding that, you know, and if you had doubt or if you didn't understand how we understood, no disrespect, but I had to really, you know, guard
Right.
her space.
Right.
And so now the interesting thing is with dextrocardia, they said comes Down syndrome, a whole list of other things that they had, you know. she never had any of those things, you know. And they told her, they said, well, you know, after we do the last repair, that, you know, you won't be able to do gymnastics. You won't, you know, you won't be able to do the normal things that other children do. Well, she did everything that the normal children did. You know, she did gymnastics. She did cheerleading. She did everything, you know. And so they're sitting there just amazed at the fact that how does she only have dextrocardia first, and how, you know, and not all these other things that come along with this, you know, and how is she able to do these things with this, you know. And so, you know, it was just, I remember this. Now, this is my tearjerker, and then I'm going to.
No, I'm enjoying this.
I remember when she was going in, she was getting ready to turn 12, and this was her last surgery. And she says to me, she's, you know, they give you your oral anesthesia before they completely knock you out, so you can spend a little more time together, you know. So I'm standing there and I'm talking with her and loving on her. And so she says, and so I knew she was getting a little groggy and it was time for me to go, you know. And so I says, okay, Gabby, mommy's going to be right here when you wake up. I'm going to be right here, you know. And so I loved on her, and I'm ready to push the door open, and I'm a crybaby. So, you know, I'm ready to push the door open. And so as I push the door open, my daughter says, Mom, I'm not scared. And I was like, Gabby, that's so good. But, you know, I'm just trying to really just get out the door and just, okay, that's good. You know, because I didn't want the last thing for her to see is me crying and, you know, being a certain way. Right. And so I'm steady trying to push that door open. And finally she goes, well, don't you want to know why? And I said, yeah, Gabby. I had to turn around and give her my attention and say, yeah, Gabby, why? Right. My 11-year-old said to me, she said, because I know God is with me. You know? Wow. And so when she said that to me, that not only was God already telling me that he was going to redeem the time, but that was my assurance that whatever God's will was, that we're okay with that. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And so she's 24 years old. She's had no other surgeries. She's defied all the odds that they said would be against her. She went to college. She works a full-time job. So now I'm ready to put out everything that I've been preserving, and you know what I mean? And just, wow. You know, and you see how God works it out. Wow.
So let me ask you this. Did you ever, this is a very good segue into spiritual connotations and thoughts. Yeah. So did you ever, I mean, look, I remember starting out as a filmmaker, how blessed I was to be able to continue this journey. Yeah. Pretty much my whole life. And now I have a 7-year-old, I have a daughter, and she's able to watch me do whatever I do and see the growth. Yeah. But did you ever find any moments that you felt like God had forgotten you because you had this dream and desire to do probably millions and millions and millions of things in music, and you had to pretty much sacrifice that to do the parent thing, which was very important? Did you ever feel any resentment from that, or did you never, ever feel any type of way about that during that time? And I know that's sensitive, but
no,
there's a lot of people who are in your shoes. Yes. Who started out one way and then their life went another way. So I want you to talk to them about it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to be honest and frank, and the honesty is that you have those thoughts. Right. And that's just what they are, thoughts. That's where you have to keep them. And so what I learned through my journey is that anything that's negative, anything that's going to keep me in a certain place mentally, anything that is going to take me outside of what I know God has put in me to be great, I'm human, it's going to come, but when it comes, it's not going to penetrate. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. And so and so when you keep yourself built up and you keep yourself ready, and I believe that's one of the things we always think when God says be ready in and out of season. I don't think that's just knowing a scripture. That's
life.
That's life. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so whatever life may hit you with, you know, and when we understand that, you know, what is it? The scripture where it says that, you know, the darts will come, you know, they're going to come, but they won't penetrate and they won't hurt you, you know? Right. And then I find that even the scars that have come, in the end, they begin to be a testimony and a tool that God begins to use to help somebody else's journey.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Great question. I mean, great answer.
Thank you.
I just say. Anyway, when you were 16, then let me ask you that. When you were 16 and your mom said no, how did you feel?
Oh, wow. Oh, I went kicking and screaming. I went
Yeah.
kicking and screaming because, to be honest, in school, I mean, I graduated high school, maybe a C average student,
Right.
but I can be honest with you, all I heard was music the whole time.
Right.
That's all I
Right.
heard. And so I would sit there and I would be in English class. And I remember my English, Mr. Hale would say, okay, Tiffany, are you going to join us today? And because I would drift so well, so I could literally sit there and hear Luther Vandross song from the beginning to the end.
Right.
And so
Right.
I was, and I understand with my children how important it was that when I saw that they were really that they learned based on music, their brain worked that way, that I understood the importance of the art school, because we don't get it that a lot of times if I would have gone to an art school, it would have been geared towards what I love, you know what I mean? And so the interest would have been a little more, and so what we did with my children is I made sure that if they had any interest in music, which my daughter does, but if they had any interest in music, that those things were made available to them, and that's kind of one of the things that, I wish that I could have, but in the time that I had to set aside and, and grow through that, I was able to pick up and learn about myself, other things, and it didn't just stem from music anymore.
I really love your attitude. I can hear the fan, by the way. If you got a
You
fan,
do,
yeah.
yeah,
I love your attitude though, because I'm gonna tell you, if my mom or dad had told me at 16 I couldn't do what I wanted to do,
yeah,
I wouldn't have been as nice about it as you were.
yeah. I tell you,
I was the black sheep of the family, so they would have.
Oh, okay. You would have went.
And listen, I would have been a moving out 16-year-old. And it's weird too, because I feel like now that I'm a parent,
Yeah,
I one of the things that I will say it's a very interesting time. I was having this conversation with someone the other day about how parenting at that time was more protective.
yeah.
And so even though I don't understand it, now that I'm a parent, I'm like, some of that stuff y'all was doing was a little jack. But at the same time, I get it, because that was a different time. There was a
And it was
different.
all they knew.
That's all they knew. The
Mhm.
perspective. You didn't have internet. I mean, think about it. To us, the internet is like, that's our thing. But
Yeah,
there was no social media. There was no internet. There was no FaceTime. There was no nothing. So when you sent somebody out into the world, it was like you really was sending them out into the world.
that's right. You
And
really were.
so that, I understand it. I get it from that perspective.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but but but
And
I
but
still would have been
I know, but one of the other things my mom had already prepared me for was that I had to finish high school.
right.
So I
I
knew,
think there still would have been a way to finish it. That's
yeah,
my
it
thing.
would have. It really
Right.
would have.
I
I
was
think,
like, how could you finish high school? That was just like, I didn't
yeah.
understand.
And in fact, when I had the ability to go to New York,
Right.
but at the time when they have multiple children, so it just
Right.
wasn't, you know what I mean?
No, I
So
get it.
yeah, I had to step out, and just say, I'm doing it.
So you did, but you are a normal 16-year-old. At 16, you did feel
Oh yeah.
the
Oh
stress
yeah.
from that, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, I was like, oh, I hate her.
Right, right, right. Okay, okay.
Didn't really, but
Right.
yeah, I had, oh my gosh, I went in the bedroom and tore the room up. I was upset,
I don't
you
blame
know,
you.
but the more I thought about
I don't blame you. And I'm a grown up with
the
a
more
child. I don't blame you.
yeah, and the more I thought about it, I had one more year to go. And not only that, the interesting thing was when I was in high school, because my family here was very, involved, and so my grandmother, she was the first African American to have her own radio station, and then to be inducted in the Radio Hall of Fame. She's in that,
Shout out
and
to her. Wow.
yes, and she was called the Lady with the Golden Voice. And the
What's her
interesting thing,
name?
the Lady with the Golden Voice, she's passed away now,
Okay.
but yeah, but I tell you, I'm sorry. Oh, well, my grandmother's name was Charlena Hewitt, Charlena Brown
Yeah,
Hewitt.
let's give a shout out to her. That's
Yes,
legend. It's
yes,
legendary.
yes, absolutely. And so she really, they really just, there was a lot of respect in the city, and, a lot of, what would I say, because of who she was in, the head of the NAACP out here,
Right,
all
right.
that. And so whenever she would have like talent shows or anything like that, she would always make sure that I was right there on the stage,
So it sounds like your grandmother really was the driving force behind the art part of your life.
She really was. She
Probably
really
your mom.
was. She was the one that saw it in me at a young
Right.
age. And when I saw what she did with my uncle, I saw, that she had, you know what I mean? That she
Yeah.
knew. And one thing about her was that she wasn't going to get involved unless you were like, she knew you was
Right. You was ready.
yes,
Right.
yes.
Exactly.
So I remember when I think I was 12 years old, and we went to go visit Howard in
So
Calabasas.
for the people that's listening and watching on television, your uncle is Howard Hewitt, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And he is the legend. If you don't know who Howard Hewitt is, just jump off a building. You just something.
Right.
But Howard Hewitt also influenced your upbringing in music too, right?
Absolutely.
So when you say
Absolutely.
uncle, I just want people to know what you mean when you say uncle.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he did. In fact, he was one of the first ones that I saw just really just able to take that melodic flow and just,
He was a beast. He's a
and do
beast.
stuff. Yes. So when I would see him do stuff like that, and and I begin to, and then not to mention, to be honest with you, when I was 3 years old, I would get on the ground and just vibe with my mom. Every mom cleaned their house on Saturday mornings,
Right. Right.
And so I would get on the floor and vibe with my mom. I mean, vibe with the music that she would be playing, like Natalie Cole or, any Teddy Pendergrass, anybody
Right.
back in that era. And when the music would stop, I would just cry and just scream for the music to go, for her to put another album back on. And so she would do it, and then I would calm back down and start flowing with the music again, And then one of the things I would do is get behind my dad, and I would sit behind him, and I used to love to put my ear to his back as he talked, because I loved how his vibration came up through his back.
Oh, wow.
So I found out that what I really fell in love with first was vibration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once I really understood that, it went to the vocals and the music.
That's great, man.
Isn't
That's
that crazy?
amazing. So talk about a little bit, let's get right into what you're doing today. Now we've got a little pass handle.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your new album. I want to know, I know the numbers, I'm into numbers, 1111 and all that stuff. But why did you name your album? Why did you call your album 1111? What is the significance of that for you?
Absolutely. There's two meanings to that for me. One is my birthday is 1111.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the other one is God has been showing me 1111 for about 7 years now. And the interesting thing is I know sometimes we as people, we move around and we're doing and we're doing and we're doing, and we think we're listening to God, and sometimes we're not. And so he uses other things to slow us down and say, hey, I need to get your attention here, because he's a loving God, And so I have been seeing these numbers 1111 and 111 for 7 years. And every time I would see it, I'd screenshot it, or to just remind myself that I'm seeing this. Well, then I took it a step further. I said, okay, now I need to know what the meaning of this is, because I'm seeing it a little bit too much,
Right.
So I started researching the meaning of it. And 1111 is talking about the attraction that you've put out there, you're now receiving. And it's a whole list of other things that I could really go on another journey with you with. But that is, so when you think about my album, it's something that has been, it's 1111. It's the energy that I've put out there that now the universe is now sending back to me. And that's why 1111. And when you open up 1111, I'm telling you, it has so many different, types of music in there. It's not just R&B, which R&B is just the root of me, and right. It's not just
inspirational, gospel, jazz.
Gospel. I actually have a song on there, an inspirational song on there with Father MC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. And, it's interesting because a lot of people ask the question, how easy is that about doing gospel, or how hard is that? as far as doing gospel and then doing R&B and all the other, different types of music. And my question,
I'm still stuck on Father MC. It's one of my favorite rappers of all time. He's like in my top 5. Yeah.
yes,
He's like a beast. Go ahead.
yes.
All right.
Yes. And then I also have a song that I did with Speech from Arrested Development.
Arrested Development, yeah.
Yes. So
you're not playing with it.
And I love it because I am, 1111 again is connecting with people that are like-minded. You know what I mean? We understand that, love has no walls.
Yeah.
And if you're genuine about what you give.
Wow. Say that again.
Love has no walls.
Oh, wow.
And if you're genuine about what you're giving, and your source is genuine from where you're tapping from, no matter where you sing or what you sing, there's something good being released.
Love has no laws. Wow.
It doesn't.
That's
it really
powerful. When you hear you speak, it reminds me of Al Green, Reverend Al Green. A lot of people didn't understand in the 80s. Yeah. In the 70s and 80s, he was doing gospel concerts and R&B.
Okay, yeah.
At the same time. And now that I'm an adult, I totally get it. But at the time, a lot of people judged him for that, saying he's an R&B singer doing gospel. But actually, he was actually doing the work of God and the work of Christ more so than church was.
Right. That's
because he was going out to them, to the people where they at who don't go to church.
That's right.
And he would give them their love and happiness, and then afterwards say, "Now we're gonna come over here and have church."
Right.
And they had to get with it because
they love him.
Exactly.
And that's what it's about, because he told us to go out into all the world, and he said, "I will take care of my church."
Right.
So those of us that he has sent out, don't be afraid to go and do, and I believe right now that those of us that have been hidden for such a time as this.
You better speak it.
Okay.
You better speak it. That's true. That's fact.
Yes, it's our 1111. I don't take that just for myself, because a lot of people have been seeing like 333, 444, things like that, and so I believe God is really speaking in that, and he's speaking to the remnant, and it's just our season to really understand what those meanings are and to embrace them.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
That's beautifully said. So talk a little bit about Make Me Say It Again. I was listening to it yesterday in the car, and I have the Bose system, so I got to hear the real, real stuff. And it's the Trillionaires produced it. Tell us a little bit about it. I really like I said, it's one of my favorite songs from Isley Brothers. What inspired you to redo it, and how did you get involved with the Trillionaires?
Wow. Okay. Well, the Trillionaires happen to be consist of my husband, which is Kyle Bynoe, and a couple of other. We have Q, and then a couple of other young musicians and young producers that he have working with him.
So that's like a group of producers under your husband's camp.
Yes.
That's dope.
Yes. And
I like the name too. He calls himself Trillion. He went past billionaire.
Okay.
No, we trillion.
I mean, if he could have went to quadruplaires or something, he probably would have went there.
He said bump millions, bump billion.
Right. Yeah.
Trillion level. And that brother ain't playing. God damn.
And so you want to know the interesting thing is that we both have a love of the old school music. And so it's when I remember being 7 years old singing the Isley Brothers song, and then Natalie Cole and who else? Shane and all those things, being very young. And I sung those songs, but I didn't know what I was singing about.
Right.
I didn't have a clue of it.
Right.
And it's interesting because I remember my mom saying, "Sing it with meaning." I'm like, how in the heck? How in the heck am I singing it with? But then I understood, it was performance more than meaning, then. But now, so now I'm older. I've been through some things. I can appreciate, the lyrics. I can appreciate where I am in life as opposed, where I see to deliver it, not to mention the Trillionaires, when, the minute that we say we're going to do something, they put it together and it becomes like, you have no choice.
They ain't got no choice. They call themselves Trillionaires.
Right.
You call yourself Trillionaire and not do stuff quickly.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying. And that's exactly what they did. And so and then I also did Evelyn Champagne King's song Shame. And we slowed that down, and the Trillionaire slowed that down and just totally turned that around.
The way you sing the song though, it almost sounds like you're singing it to God almost.
Which one?
Make me say it again.
Make me say it again. Hey, and you know what? In my heart, it's not that I am, but you could say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
it
that's
had
what
a
blessed
very
you.
spiritual feeling to it to me.
Yes, absolutely. And that's because that's the root of me, so
Right.
therefore it comes out,
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
yeah.
know you probably singing it to your husband, but
Yeah.
it felt like if I was like, you could take this either way. That's how I meant.
Exactly. And you can.
So tell me a little bit about so who are some of your influences? I'm gonna tell you who I heard when I heard you sing. I heard a little bit of Tina Marie in your voice.
Oh, really? I'm surprised you didn't say Stephanie Mills.
I didn't hear Stephanie. I heard
No, I get a lot of Stephanie because we have that quick vibrato thing.
Yes.
So I get a lot of that. But I've heard and what's interesting is that this album, I've kind of taken it because I'm used to, if you go back and listen to any of my other music like Be Still or anything like that, I'm used to like belting and just just reaching you and just singing that, and I'm used to doing that. But this particular album, I'm vibing and I'm flowing and I'm enjoying it and I'm relaxing in it. You know what I'm saying?
Like a trillionaire, basically.
Okay. And that's what I love about it. It's like, it's no rush to it to get to this big thing,
Right.
because the vibe is so good that it'll lead you right to that, and that's kind of what I love, about how the Trillionaires put their stuff together.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So who are your influences? Some of your influence?
Oh, wow. Well, I would definitely say my uncle, Howard Hewitt.
Of course.
But I am so digging her right now. I love the fact that she plays every instrument. I just love that. And not to mention, I love how she's, who she stands for. I love that. You don't have to always get up and take it all off to be seen. Her.
Oh, her. Okay.
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, look at it. But you don't have to get up and take it all off. If you can't, you do, that's fine. No judgment. But you don't have to. There's another way. And I like the fact that she's chosen that other way. She's like, here are my talents. Here what I have, instead of seeing what I have. Here what I have.
Her gonna put a lot of people out of business that are female.
Okay. Yeah.
Because she basically came in the game and said, all that is gone. Because even the public is going, oh. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you got talent. So some of these others we need to reevaluate.
Okay. And that's it.
You're taking off your clothes a little too much.
Yeah.
To have all this talent.
Yes. And she's one that, I look at and I'm like, I'm proud
of her. Some other stuff. You ain't lying.
Yeah, I'm proud of her. And so, and I love everything about her. So I would have to say her. Now, don't get me wrong. I've loved Tina Marie back in the day. I've done a lot of her, her music as well. But Whitney Houston, those are all my ballads are the epitome of who I am. But, this particular album, we've kind of taken it to a vibe and it's just, it just shows, like I said, it just allows you to just grow and roll with it,
And you also have Ben Tankard on who's been on the show here, guys. If you saw him last couple weeks ago. But Ben Tankard is on this album.
Yes, he is.
Well, right?
And the title of the song that he's on is called Mood. And that is it's phenomenal. It really is.
Now, what I'm trying to figure out is why nobody sent me a copy of this record, and when does it come out? When does it come out?
Yeah, I'll make sure you get a copy of it.
Somebody gonna give me a copy, or I'm gonna turn one of the members of the Trillionaires to do it for me.
Right. I'll make call the Trillionaires.
They'll give me that copy.
It. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that the book, the music isn't going to be coming out until late summer.
Okay.
So we're in the process of revamping a lot of things like my image and,
Okay.
not my image, but my look, things like that. I've had this look for like since Tanae Williams. I've always loved to grow my hair out and to just be who, and I'm interested in evolving into another element of who Tiffany is. So
Tanae Williams, that wasn't your real name, right?
No, my real name is Tiffany Williams. You want to know
Right.
something interesting is that my manager, now listen to this. My manager at the time was Nikki Eichner. And he came to me and he said, well, the other girl, Tiffany, was out doing pop music at that time. And they wanted to change my name because they didn't want confusion, which I didn't understand how that was going to happen. But they they wanted me to change my name from Tiffany to something else, Williams. Well, I was young and didn't know any better. So we came up with the name Tanae because the only thing you're doing is taking the F's out and it's not too far away from my name.
Right.
Not to mention he was always like, oh, you're so tenacious. You're so tenacious. So we did Tanae. Well, the interesting thing is years later, I get this YouTube email and it's from the girl, Tiffany. Well, it wasn't directly from her, but somebody sent it to me, but it was about her. It was her YouTube. She was talking about what she went through in her, with her music. Well, the interesting thing is that she said that her manager, now my manager and her manager, I guess were good friends. She said that her manager, now her name was, let's for the sake of not remembering her last name, but it wasn't Williams.
Right.
Let's just say it was Tiffany McAfee or something like that, And so her manager came to her and told her that we want you to change your name to Tiffany Williams. It's actually on YouTube.
Oh,
on YouTube.
Wow.
And my music in the beginning, like I said, I was always doing ballads, always doing big ballads like Whitney, always doing that type of stuff. So my demo stuff, a lot of demo stuff I had was in that vein.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know anything, but I'm just like, that was like a,
That's and I bet the other singer was white, wasn't she?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, she was.
Wow. Yep. Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That's
we think about, New Edition and the things they went through, and how, they would come into the hood and and get us that, and that's why one of the things my uncle would tell me, it's interesting because I would tell him, I would call him and be like, can you send me do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do? And he's like, no. I'm like, why not? He says, no, what I will send you is a book. And in that book, it's about learning the business, And so when he would send, he sent me the book about, he had me go get the book about understanding the business, the music business.
Right.
And I jotted through it.
But you didn't really get into it.
I did not get into it. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I really wish that I had. Right. Because I would have known some other things, and I would have stand firm on not changing my name and, understanding the importance of not changing my name, and because at the end of the day, when he did change it to Tanae Williams, he owned the rights to it.
Exactly.
So even if
that's why they do it.
Yeah. So even if I put anything out throughout the years,
yep,
under Tanae Williams,
it went to him, not me. Yep. Yep. I hope you guys who are watching understand this. We had Dawn from In Vogue on a few weeks ago, and she said exactly some of the same stuff you're saying right now.
Yeah.
You guys go back and watch that episode because she really gives a vast understanding of the music business from the perspective of the nitty-gritty dirt part of it and not just the celebrity part. So you guys should watch that. So let me ask you this. What did you learn from your uncle that you carry with you throughout life in terms of the music business? What did Howard teach you? Because Howard he's had a huge career, but I'm sure he's got that's a podcast for real.
Right.
What did you learn from him that you carry with you that works every time when you apply it?
Yes. And you know what's interesting? The one thing that I learned from him that I used and that I applied had nothing to do with music. Isn't that interesting? Well, I know my uncle loves his family. Right. One of the things he did is stay true to his traveling, his career, his whatever he wanted to do, he did it, and God bless him for that, you know.
Right.
But I realized that when I had children, that my life was no longer my own. And so I made sure their worlds were okay, that they went to college, that they did fulfilled the things, and that they knew mommy was here and mommy loved them, only because I was able to see his mistakes. Not that he did it intentionally, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I was able to see, you know, and with his daughters being my cousins and feel some of their pain, you know what I mean? I was able to see that, you know, and see the hurt. And so it
Yeah.
became like a weight for me to know. And that's why even when I had my daughter, it was like, mm-mm. And you know, these are dreams that I have been waiting for all my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it was so, now I'm going to say this, it was easy to say and do it. But when I go back and look at pictures of myself and things like
You
that, I
sad.
see the stress.
Right.
I see the, you know what I mean? I see everything that I was going through, but you would have never known it because I didn't walk around in it, you know?
That's powerful. You helping me right now because I have a 7-year-old, and it's interesting. I, I've always lived my life where I include her in my decisions,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this year, um, I've traveled a little bit more than I normally travel,
Mm-hmm.
and so one night she called me on FaceTime. She never calls me on FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
This one night she calls me on FaceTime. I'm in the hotel and she calls me on FaceTime and she's just staring at me. And I was like, this is odd. Why is she just staring at me on FaceTime? And then
Yeah.
it hit me.
She just wanted to see your
She
face.
wanted to see my face. She wanted to feel her father.
Right. Yeah.
And I almost started crying in the hotel because it hit me how important it is. Even though it looks like,
Yeah.
she don't want to be bothered by me sometimes and
Yeah.
she's,
Yeah.
doing her thing and all that.
Mhm.
She loves her father.
That's right.
She
That's right.
needs her father in her
Yeah.
life. And she just kept looking at me and she would go, you okay? What'd you do today? And then she just started staring in the camera,
Yeah.
just looking at me.
Oh,
Just,
yeah.
just for like 3 or 4 minutes at a time, just staring.
Oh, that's
And I
beautiful.
was like, wow. So that moment, I made a commitment to myself, not even to her, but to
Mhm.
myself, that I'm gonna make sure that I never let the money get ahead of being a father. Because
That's
I
right.
think a lot of times what men do, especially more
Yeah.
so than women,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys are not that bad at this, but
Yeah.
men, we're so caught up in, I gotta make the money because we're thinking about the family. We
Yeah.
want to lay up, we want to make sure there's a lot of money in there for our babies to go shop and our wives,
Right.
our girlfriends can do what they do.
Right.
But we forget that our presence is actually just as important, probably more important than how much money we have in the bank, because as long as they can sleep and eat
Yeah.
and have a TV,
Yeah.
they're good. They're going to be fine. They
Yeah.
just don't. They prefer to have you there that extra weekend that you turn
Right.
down a
Yeah.
$10,000 gig or a hundred
Yeah.
thousand dollar gig. They rather have you there for that weekend than
Yeah.
for you to go that weekend and be away, and then you started getting used to that, and then
Exactly. Yeah.
next thing you know, you're gone every weekend because as a man, you're thinking 7, 14, 21,
Mhm.
3, 4, 500,000, So it's a very good lesson that I
Mhm.
learned when you was talking. It just made me think about that moment that I had with my daughter. So
Yeah, because you know what? Those are the years, and it's important. 7, you know, those are the years that that she's watching you, you know, and so she's watching how daddy loves. She's watching how daddy does everything, and so that's how she's going to receive hers when she looks for it, you know. And so that's very important, you know. And I saw that, you know, on the flip side, as far as being one that was driven from the time I was 3 years old to now have a child. You know what I
right,
mean? And it's like, okay. And
right,
and I thank God that I have the understanding that I didn't. I came from a non-denominational church, you know, even at the age of, I think I started going at the age of maybe 10. And so I was able to really get a lot of understanding before I went off. You know, so I was one of those that was able to really say, if God said stop, I had to stop.
right,
You know, I had to
right.
stop. And so you know, so you know, in those moments you look back and you see things. But the good thing about today is that you have FaceTime. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, you can travel. It's a way of balancing things today,
Right.
and you can do those things today and travel and still be, like you did on FaceTime and things like
Yeah.
that. Back then it was like
You
all
had
in or
nothing.
nothing,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe a phone call
Okay.
if you
And then
put
phone
enough
call.
money on the hotel.
Right. And exactly. And you get the bill and you're like, oh my God,
Like
don't call me again.
$800. Right. Don't call me no more.
Right. Don't call me no more.
That's
That is the
funny.
truth.
Oh man. So tell me a little bit. So you're an author. Let's talk about your books. You have a couple books that are out and you have a new book that's coming, right?
Yes, I do.
Let's
Well, I
talk
have
about
2 books that are coming. They
two
had
books.
their, yeah, and during the process of the pandemic, I was able to finish them, thank God. But what they are is Ugly Duckling is, I shared with you about Ugly Duckling No More.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it talks about my journey, and things that I went through as a little girl, and the importance of understanding the thing in the world that we cultivate for our children, the importance of what we speak to them and what we allow other people around them to speak into their lives, because we don't realize that what happens is you begin to take on, like when you're spoken something negative over and over and over again to you as a child in your, developing stages, well, you're developing, that's just that. You know what I mean? So you're not going to stay there, but why are you as an adult speaking to that child in that place?
Right. Right.
Because what happens is that child will begin to, even though they'll continue to grow, that place that you've planted in them will stay right there at that level that you've planted it in them.
Yep.
And so even as an adult now, they have to now look in the mirror and say, well, why do I keep doing this? Or why do I feel this way? Or why? And so that's why the book is not just for children, it's for us as adults as well, because it puts the mirror in front of us and say, well, for instance, I remember one of the statements my aunt, one of my family members used to always make, and she would always say, because I've always been a thin girl, and I've always been soft-spoken, and so she on the other hand had always dealt with being overweight and underweight, overweight and so she was never consistent and happy in that within herself. Right. But I didn't know that as a child. You know what I'm saying? And so every time we would get around family events and it'd be a room full of people, oh my gosh, you're so skinny, And so as I grew up, what's wrong with me? Why am I so skinny? Why am I so skinny? Not realizing that I'm perfect.
Right.
I'm perfect for Tiffany, And so I had to get through that journey. And I had to look at that person and say, okay, you know what? This is something that was planted. Now I have to uproot that thing and now begin to see myself the way that God sees me. Now, how do I do that? I began, searching in the word, but you want to know the most interesting thing for me is that my mom took me to go see The Wiz. Excuse me, allergies. And that was the first time that I ever saw myself. When I saw Diana Ross, wow. I saw a thin, tall girl.
Yeah, she was thin and tall.
And soft-spoken.
Right.
But could do her thing,
right.
And she was accepted.
Yeah, she was.
And that was the first time that I was like, I'm okay. I'm okay, because you have to realize, growing up and then you have your uncle coming in with all these beautiful LA girls that, so you're constantly, because you were taught to now look at yourself based on other people. So you're constantly evaluating yourself and judging yourself. Well, why don't I have this? Well, why don't I have that? Well, why don't I? Because it wasn't for Tiffany. I have everything that Tiffany needs for Tiffany, but because nobody knew that, it's important for me now to share that with the generations to come, or even other parents, to understand the things that we speak into their lives, and how we could caterpillar them into the world to be great, or we could stomp their growth and then look at them and be like, what's wrong with them?
Oh, you just described the whole black.
Okay.
That's the whole black.
Well, and you know what? There are so many. I'm gonna tell you another thing is one of the things that God has shown me also, because we have so many me books,
right.
Like self-awareness and, me.
But not for us.
But not for us, and not telling us in the sense that we need to hear it.
Exactly.
Like, for instance, when you do have your me time, what are you putting in you? You know what I'm saying? Now, it's okay to go listen to other music and vibe and do that, but the consistency of what you're putting in you will replicate what you're putting out.
Like the dude from Friday, Pinky. Say it again.
Okay.
Say it again.
And that's just the reality of it, and that's why I say this. I said this the other day on one of my interviews, and I thought about it after. I was like, oh, I shouldn't, but I'm going to say it. I believe this with all my heart, that how the world goes, and they get them young and they say, oh, we want to put them out, and we want to da 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 da. And there are other reasons why they do that. But let me tell you, you really don't have anything to tell nobody until you hit 30.
That's true.
You don't have nothing. Yeah. You can sing a song to me.
That's real talk right there.
Yeah, you can sing a song to me. But see, when the substance and the life and the hurt and the evidence of life is in you,
right,
you can feel that. You're going to feel it.
Right.
You're going to feel it. And that is the difference, you know what I'm saying, between somebody that can just be taught something and doing it, as opposed to lived it and given it.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Do you pastor too?
No, I don't pastor. I was a worship leader as well as a psalmist in my church. So I did that. And then I did other things like, the interesting thing is when I do minister in song, it comes out to be more like a prophetic flow and things like that. So
well, you need to start Trillionaire Baptist Church. A Trillionaire Church of God in Christ. Because you got a word.
Yeah. I agree, because you know what, God's, he's hidden us for such a time as this, and there are so many of us that are alike,
right?
And when what happens is when we get together and I speak or you speak, it makes something within us leap that says, wow, okay,
right.
You know what I mean? And that's energy. That's positive energy. And that when we walk away from our conversation, I guarantee you, we're gonna walk away feeling like, okay, let's go be great and do, you know what I mean? Because, and that's important to have people like that in your circle. I'll tell you, one of the things I realize is not everybody want to see you win.
Say that one again.
Okay. And so you have to be very careful who's in your circle, because one of the things I find, like I told you before, I don't have that competitive bone in my body.
Right. Me neither. But
I find that a lot of women do when it comes to this music.
People do.
Yeah. And when it comes to this music and the women, you want to know something interesting. There were two particular women that were on stage, and I'm watching it on TV. And I'm watching this, and now nobody else probably saw it, but I could see that these two particular women were actually battling each other up on the thing.
Right.
And I know a mutual person that knows both of them. So I called her and I said, hey, how do whatchamacallit and whatchamacallit get along? And she said, girl, they can't stand each other. I said, I could see that.
Right.
I could see that in their performance. She was like, and see, that's why it's so important for us to not have that stuff. Because what are you showing the younger generation? To be that way? No, exactly. No. Your greatness is exactly that. Your greatness. I can't take nothing from you.
Right.
If anything, we can only add to each other. We can't take nothing. And if somebody comes and want to take something from you, they're not supposed to be in your circle.
What people don't understand about uniqueness and being original is it actually is your ticket to success.
It is.
Because if you think about even like you can just name singers right now. I can name 5 of them right now: Sting, Whitney Houston, Sade, Aretha Franklin, Phil Collins. They all sound different.
Yep.
None of those 5 that I just named off the top of my head sound the same.
Nope.
Prince, Michael Jackson. None of them sound the same.
Right.
Everybody's doing. I mean, even if the music has some influences that sound like whoever, their vocal ability and their writing is still different.
Yeah.
So your gift is actually in not copying me. Your gift is in actually being you.
Being you. Because if you're you, then that's the jewel that God wants to shine, and that's it. And then, and just that, the jewel. And if we want to look at the pressure and all the things that life brings us, that's just what it creates.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how can people, this is a great conversation. How can people get in touch with you and your website? Give us that information.
Okay. Well, you can contact me on all social platforms, which is Tiffany Bynoe Me on Facebook, on Twitter, LinkedIn, all those things. I'm trying to get into what do you call it? TikTok.
I know that's the one I won't do.
I love the acting stuff in it. This morning I watched a girl and I love The Color Purple.
Yeah.
And she did The Color Purple on there. I was like, oh, I gotta do that. So
Yeah.
I love the acting skills and the acting ability, things like that. But when it comes to, the dancing and all that stuff, I'm like, I leave that to my daughter. Like, you go ahead.
Yeah, I can tell I'm getting old because I stopped at Instagram. That's it for me.
Okay.
I ain't doing no more. That's it. I can't do nothing else.
Right.
I'll focus on LinkedIn, and that'll leave me. That's enough.
That'll put you where you need to be.
Show me the money. I don't need to do all the other stuff.
Right. That will definitely put you where you need to be.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing the show today. I really appreciate it. And
you know what? I wanted to just share one thing with
sure,
you.
Please.
My biopic is definitely ready. It's getting ready.
You doing a biopic?
Well, I'm getting my biopic together, and I would love your assistance in that.
Oh, wow. Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I'm definitely doing that, and I would definitely love your assistance in that. And we're doing like the Dreams in a Jar show, where it talks about people that one of the things I realized is that putting my dream on hold, that it didn't just stop there. There were so many other things that made that dream, And so what I realized is that I began to just put those things in a jar. And so, and as I go out and I speak about things, the main attraction that I find that we have in common is dreams in a jar. There are so many women, so many men that have put their dreams on hold. So whether it be their family or whether it be somebody that they have to take care of, or whatever the case may be, there are so many people that have put their dreams on hold, and then once they get a certain age, they feel like, the world's not acceptable of me anymore. No, that's not so.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and so we're doing a show to just really open up that world for those that are over 30 to understand that it's time to take that lid off and bring those dreams to life.
Oh,
so
man.
We're doing that, and I have like some other things outside of the books that I'm also doing as far as the reality show and things like that.
Yeah, talk about it. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, well, we're actually in the format of pitching it and putting it together now.
Okay.
And like I said, it's going to be like just really people that have gone, everyday people, not somebody that has that's arrived, you know what I'm saying? But everyday people. What's interesting? I was walking down the street in New York City, and I ran into somebody that I did an acting thing with maybe a year ago or so. But I had remembered her, and I went and shared with her, and she says, well, what are you up to? And so I began to share with her, and she was like, and this is a Jewish lady. And I shared with her, and she says, oh my God, that's exactly where I am now.
Oh, wow.
And I've run across so many people that is exactly where they are. They're at a place to where they're like, see, the thing is, I believe that if you still have life, there's still time to do it.
Right.
There's still time to do it. And if you still have life, God is telling you that you still have time to do it. And so let's let the past be the past, and let's move forward and enjoy the fact that you are still here, and that you still can dream, and that you still have the ability to make your dreams a reality. So let's take the lid off and take them dreams out that jar.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
When does the book come out? When does the books come out?
Well, the books are going to come out. We don't have a date as far as when they're going to come out right now. But I will definitely keep you posted. And hopefully if you help me out with that biopic, you'll already know.
Yeah, let's talk off camera. Let's talk about
Absolutely.
it. Because I definitely am interested. I have a busy plate. I got a huge film that I'm doing this year. Then me and Dietrich Hatton about to drop a joint that's crazy.
Wow.
I
can only imagine.
Oh, I can't even. It's crazy. He was my guest last week, and I was surprised he even talked about it. But he, we got something that's crazy. It's coming. It's actually never. So we're doing two projects. The first one has never been done before in the way
Uh-huh.
that we're about to do it. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of, special effects and stuff in it. But the second piece is just as bananas as the first piece that we're doing. So anything I can do, like to help you with that I
Yeah.
think it'd be wonderful. What I like about what I've heard so far doing this podcast is I think there's a huge story in your sacrificing your dreams to be a mother.
Yeah.
I think there's something there because a lot of artists, we miss that part of it. And that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the family part. And then when the industry is done with us,
Right.
or if we're old, then we have nobody. And then we wonder why nobody loves us, nobody cares, nobody. Well, because you
Right.
know that seed.
Yeah.
You didn't pour into anybody. So now that you wanted your life to be this way, guess
Mhm.
what? You got it.
That's
You
right.
know, 11-11. So
11.
so I think there is. I don't know what your biopic is about, but
Mhm.
I would say that's a huge part that
That
really
is definitely a
came to
huge
me.
part.
It was like that will resonate with the public
Mhm.
and the world because even if you're not a singer,
Mhm.
you could be an attorney, you could be, a school teacher, professor, you could be, a person that pick up trash every day. There's
Right.
always that thing in all of us, especially men, where
Yeah.
we want to work harder to get more money
Yeah.
versus that, Faison Love said something to me one time. We was driving in the car and he goes, God didn't put us on earth just to chase money.
Okay.
And I said, Big Perm got wisdom? It hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, God did not place us on earth to chase money.
Right.
That wasn't what he didn't do all this for that.
Okay.
You
That's
know.
it. That's right. That's right.
So we miss that part of it a lot. I finally got it, but I'm saying a lot of people miss that part of it. And I think if that part of it is in your biopic,
Yeah.
that's going to be powerful.
And you know what else I would love to put in it is how now it's now my daughter's testimony. You know what I mean? And because she asked me, she's like, Mom, how, because I was telling her, I said, Gabby, I said, now, because at work and no matter where she is, it's interesting because people will ask her, they'll see her scar and they'll ask her. And there was one particular person, a teenager that was like, I'm getting ready to undergo heart surgery. How was it? And they'll ask her questions like that. And so I told her, I said, Gabby, I said, now this has become your testimony. This is your story now. And so now it will give me an opportunity to now pass the baton to her in that story.
That's good.
Yeah. And I believe that she'll be able to tell, I'm sorry, having a little eyelash malfunction. But I believe that
Malfunction.
but I believe that, right. I believe that she'll be able to really share a lot more about our story, about her story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a little depth way. We'll do that. And so so I think that's gonna be, another, because I love how you have the understanding of 11-11, a lot of other things spiritually as
Yeah.
well, I know.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that you'll be able to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Share like
absolutely.
that.
My
Yeah.
spiritual aspect of myself is what has become a huge tool for me in my film now, my
Yeah.
films, because
Yeah.
I didn't have this tool 10 years ago. I was, I understood it, but I wasn't vast in knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Now I have a
Yeah.
vast knowledge of it. I have a film that's coming out tonight at midnight, by the way.
Wow.
People who are watching this, whenever it comes out, it's already out. But tonight at midnight, I have a film that's coming out on Fox, a Tubi. Well, Fox, same thing. It's
Uh-huh.
called LAX, and it's a love story about this couple who are going through some uh, contemplating divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about this film is I shot it in black and white, and everybody's seen it; they love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes out tonight at midnight. So if you are watching this podcast, go see the movie.
Yes.
Sure,
Yeah.
it's a hit already, but at this point, speaking it in existence.
That's
But
right.
anyway, one of the things I was proud about in this film was I had so many elements, spiritual elements in it, without anyone even knowing. And I
Wow.
think that's the key to that's kind of one of my I think gifts moving forward in the future. And
Mm-hmm.
that is being able to because visually we are able to transition people's lives visually. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can either be negative or positive with it.
Yep.
But it's in how is your tools, your
Right.
ability to tell stories, your assets, your toolbox, are you able to translate, and are you able to communicate?
Yeah.
Is your cinematic language in a way where everybody can still get it, even if you're giving them spiritual
Yes.
context?
Yes. Yes.
And that's hard,
Yeah.
because people either go too preachy, or either they go so far left that people going, what was that?
Right.
So, so you have to know how to do it. And a great example of that to me is my favorite director, Martin Scorsese. He is my favorite director. So if you look at his films, you look at Casino, you look at Goodfellas, and then you look at a movie called Silence. Silence was really a Christian movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
What makes all of his films work? How could he go from a story about the mob and then talk about a person who got killed because he believes in Christ?
Mm-hmm.
How could that director do that?
Yeah.
And the way he does it is he was able to tell stories. First of all, he likes telling stories about people who are of truth. He
Mm-hmm.
likes people who are who they are.
Yeah.
So, I'm a boss, I'm a mob boss, all the way to the wall, hit the gas tank. He did a Christian film, and it was the same thing. This person was just all out about Christ. Didn't matter. He was willing to die for it. So that's his theme. That's his theme of all of his films.
Uh-huh.
But his ability to tell the story where you get it is a gift.
Yes. Yes.
And to me, that's what great storytelling is. And when you're able to tell any story, anybody can get it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you really are a filmmaker.
That's
so
right.
I just gave you guys that's watching Film Class 101.
Yeah, you gave us some good nuggets.
So that's the key for me.
Yeah,
You can resonate, you can tell any story, but if you have the tools to tell the story where anybody can get it. I mean, take Quentin Tarantino, Kill Bill.
Mm-hmm.
People who don't even like blood understood the movie.
Yeah.
They get Kill Bill. You get it.
Yeah.
It's a personal revenge story, and you understand it. Even if you're not into guns and swords and blood, but you get what was going on.
Exactly. I totally agree. That's amazing. That's interesting, because that's so in music as well. That's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Where I've come from, and and everything you just said. That's how I feel about my music. You've put all those ingredients in it, and now it's like, okay, the gumbo is coming out really good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when you know you've won. When you taste it, go, and not go, what was that?
Right. Each bite got a different taste.
You need to take a cooking class or something, because you don't know what you're doing. Oh man. Well, you know what, Tiffany, this has been a pleasure.
It has been.
This conversation. And I'm so glad that you did the Carl Jackson podcast today.
Oh, thank you that Carl Jackson invited me.